organic and inorganic, machine and non-machine, playful like a puppy but erratic like a parrot. They describe it. Then we talk about parthenogenesis, where they're able to create virgin birth hybrids in a lab. They've done this with mice. They can do it with humans. And how the genes are expressed on imprinting and everything, they could probably duplicate the human being and mix it with some other species. It's like I was just talking with Wes earlier, and I was discussing how strange it would be. We talk about the cuckoo bird and how the cuckoo bird would, step in and force the other magpies to raise their eggs as their own, and then those chicks would hatch and then push the other eggs out of the nest, basically destroying humans. And I was telling Wes, I said, it's kind of like that Dr. Seuss story. Remember Horton the elephant? Not Horton hears the Who or joins the Who. It's Horton the elephant forced to sit on an egg. Horton hatches the egg was the name of it. It's a bird named Maisie. She takes off to Palm Springs while Horton says, yeah, I meant what I said. I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. I will sit on this egg. And yeah, it's a farce, right? But it's evident that within these pages, a child's book, that the words of Dr. Seuss reflect this idea that a large elephant decides that it is better to keep his word than abandon a life that's about to be born. And all the animals where Horton lived made fun of him and criticized him for his action. They taunted, they teased them, they yelled, how absurd. Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird. So it raises a haunting question, which is why any species would routinely accept and why would any species routinely accept and raise the young of another species, thereby decreasing its own chances for survival and reproductive success? I mean, we can compare what happens in nature to the human species if we are to believe that we have been told about the possibility of clandestine invasion where human subjects are unaware or fully aware that they are part of a cosmic experiment which entails the hybridization of alien species with that of human species. So we have the alien mimicking process, and which is very intriguing, as human scientists continue on the same various scientific quests that the aliens seem to have been doing during the time of abduction. I mean, in their quest for consciousness, science has been trying to figure out how the neurons fire in the brain and whether or not the mind itself can be digitized. So they call it virtual eternity, where it's an alien concept where they can digitize your mind or they can synthesize, genes, and they can create virgin births. So what do we have? We have a virgin birth alien that they can present to us that's far more sophisticated than any projection seen with Project Bluebeam. I mean, if they are truly aliens from outer space, but they could have been created in a lab, that would be something I think would convince the world that these virgin saviors are there that are there to bring us together. I mean, the truth is perhaps this has been the plan all along. If you remember, ever since L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons did their little satanic sex ritual called the Babylon Working, it was an attempt to bring the moon child into the world, a child that looked very much like this character called Lamb. And Lamb was this large-headed homunculus conjured by Aleister Crowley. And this was also part of the Aryan purity programs that were first introduced by the Nazis as they attempted to create a race of supermen that would rule on this planet as our new gods. Now, according to Ralph Epperson, the author of The Unseen Hand, An Introduction to the Conspiratorial View of History, we make a deal with our conscience to accept different views of history. We believe in what is called catastrophic or accidental history, or we can choose the other view, which is a conspiratorial view of history. And so in the catastrophic or accidental view of history, we are led to believe that historical events such as wars and revolutions are all a direct result of some sudden surprising events. Sadly, though, most of us have been taught accidental views of history, and this view is reinforced through our lives by controlled mass media. And as a result, when most discover the conspiratorial view of history, the immediate reaction is shock, disbelief, and, of course, there's a refusal to accept something other than what you've been taught to believe your whole life. Well, world events are not simply circumstantial. They are the result of an organized campaign by an elite group of unseen and widely unknown world leaders, and their beliefs in ancient symbolism, secret societal occultism, and ritual magic affect us all, regardless of what your religious beliefs and practices are. It doesn't matter what you believe, it's what they believe. And true freedom comes when you realize that most of history has been structured and planned by a cryptocracy that pays no attention to morality or even what we call accidental history, because they know that what they do is a gradual, step-by-step process towards world domination. Even before the end of World War II, the newly structured confrontation between the world of communism and the West was the product of ex-Nazis who made deals with American intelligence in order to avoid hanging in The Hague. Nazi intelligence operatives and scientists were brought to the United States in exchange for information they allegedly had about Russian plans to declare war on the United States. And this alone was the reason the United States employed enormous intelligence agencies like the CIA that had the power invisibly to wage underground warfare, economic as well, and military as well, anywhere, including methods of warfare never before imagined. And these conflicts had to be tactically designed as to not trigger nuclear mutually assured destruction, or else tremendous loss of life could occur. And there was always the much-desired pocketing of trillions of dollars that made the manufacturing of war equipment important. So it was at this time that the plans for the New World Order were being proposed. And the New World Order had been the vision of the Nazis, and most of what they envisioned was a golden age of peace after a long-fought war to keep rogue nations in a collective and controlled environment under one government. So the world government, the Nazis, had many ideas as to bring about the New World Order, including the idea of a scorched earth policy pitting their enemies in Russia against their enemies in the United States, claiming that they were plotting a nuclear confrontation. So the Nazi sympathizers in poor intelligence apparatus created an excuse to bring to America German scientists and intelligence officers through Operation Paperclip. And many of these Nazi sympathizers were well known in our history. And there are a lot of things that those ex-Nazis taught us and brought to our intelligence operations. And one of those things were the idea of torture and experimentation on human subjects to make them less than human.